Hello and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we publish the full interviews from our site's articles and sometimes release exclusive episodes. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, the seasoned Irish folk singer-songwriter Mark Geary discusses his 30-plus year career, how being a musician has changed over that time, his latest EP Antebellum, which is a response to the current affairs from the United States and its Civil War era titular reference, Mark's career in New York, moving back to Ireland after 15 years away and how much it had changed, what keeps him interested in writing new music, his future plans, supporting the likes of the Cranberries, Elvis Costello and Coldplay, and much more. I want to note that this episode just kind of ends abruptly. What happened was Mark was calling me from his back garden and either his internet cut out or his phone died, I'm not sure. I waited for a bit for him to come back into the call, which didn't happen, and I didn't have a direct means of communication to send him a new link or anything, so it just kind of ends where it ends. But thankfully I was pretty much done with my questions anyway. So yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I'm just recording now. Perfect.
There you go.
It's lovely to chat with you.
Thanks, man. What are you doing now? You should be out on the beach.
I know I'll be out in the back garden like yourself in after this, so I'll still be writing, but I'll be doing it in the sun, so I'll
Nice,
hopefully see my computer screen.
nice, nice. And there's very important football today, man.
Yeah, I'm not really a sports guy. I've told this to people. I'm not really a sports guy, but I know other people will be into that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Stuff going on. There is.
Life continues. Life persists.
It does. It does. Yeah. Incredible, incredible out here. My
I
God.
know, actually, it's like it's so recent. I was working last week, and it was just like every day was raining on my lunch break. So, yeah, it's nice to actually have consistent sun. But that's always it's
2 days.
always kind of
Two days.
yeah. Well, it's always mercurial the weather here.
I know. I know. Yeah.
Perfect. I won't take up too much of your time, Mark. I'll let you enjoy the sunny day. I just wanted to start by asking, obviously you've had like a very long career, 30 plus years at this point. So first thing
Yeah.
I was just going to ask quite simply, does it feel that long?
My kids tell me it's not long,
Yeah.
or or when I'm talking about things and they go like, "Wait, you did what? And where were
Yeah.
you? And when the hell was that?" And I have a 17-year-old and a 26-year-old between so three boys. And I'm sure if I was talking to kind of people when I was a teenager, what they were talking about just felt medieval or something,
Yeah.
you know. Um, Actually, it doesn't until there's just moments where maybe the kids of the people who've been coming to see you are coming to see you. You know,
Yeah.
you have to pay attention to that information or whatever. But I like no, I just have always just kind of just kept my head down and just the next thing, to make money, to keep going, to do a tour. Uh, as soon as music is involved, I just I get so wrapped up in it. It just the years have just popped along, and I was on the radio a couple of nights ago, and the guy was like, "So 8 albums and soundtracks and tours and you know, I don't think of my life because it's my life. I don't think of it as here's the body of work or whatever. But it's certainly getting up there. It's kind of fabulous. I mean, my God, I mean, there was never a plan, Aaron, at all, ever.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm still doing it. Still, it's great. You know.
I I often find when you throw yourself into things, as a young person, you would start. Well, actually, would you have been in your teens or in your 20s when it started?
When I left, well, really, when I left Dublin and I went to New York, it's kind of 18, 19.
Yeah.
But like I didn't go to New York to pursue anything. I left Dublin to get the hell out of Dublin.
Yeah.
Sold my guitars. I was definitely playing songs and singing with people or whatever, but and I was writing. It was, from a very, very early age, I had this idea that, or maybe I had no thought or whatever, but that I would write felt very natural to me. Didn't have a conversation with anyone about, like, can you do this, or would you offer some advice, because there was no one to ask advice to. I didn't come from a musical kind of background or whatever. Um, but yeah, teens playing, just obsessed with music and just consumed by it. That's what my teens were all about, and being a madman and running around, being a vampire, staying up till days and days, and I actually still do that. So, you know, nothing really has kind of changed. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to ask them, when you first moved to New York, I mean, did you have any sense of like navigation when you got there, or was it literally just I'm going to fly in and I'm going to just see what
Well,
happens?
well, all I had, I mean, I was very, very privileged in that my brother had started a cafe, and he picked me up from the airport at JFK, and he said, "That's your laundry, and that's the coffee's shit there, but it's cheap. So you'll probably need that." And that place over there in the East Village, they have $1 pizzas, and then late at night they have like 80-cent pizza, and you can get a Coke. So if times are hard, go there. I mean that was the gist of what and then the next day I was working in this
Yeah.
cafe. I mean, it's mad. It's mad now. And I think of my own kids, like, I'd be tracking them, with the little badge in their bag, to,
Yeah.
you know, which,
The Apple thing, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I wonder about it. Like my poor mother, off we went. Carl was living there, my brother, and the Chine Cafe was happening, and that was my embassy. That was my cultural starting point in my kindergarten, and I was just so lucky. And I mean, it wasn't just Jeff Buckley or Sinead O'Connor or U2 and all these people that for some reason navigated their way down to the East Village. It was just, punks and transvestites and just everyone hustling, and it felt completely like a Scorsese kind of movie. It did,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I just pretend. I remember just pretending that it was all really normal. You know,
Yeah.
like just say nothing. Don't don't show how green you are. You
Yeah.
know, and I probably did that, Aaron, for maybe 3 or 4 years of before I even asked myself, do you like it here? You know, is it working? Is it a because I left on a one way ticket. It was a desperate kind of move because there was nothing really for me or anything that interested me in Dublin. I hadn't found other musicians. I hadn't found a band or to be, rehearsing or whatever. It was all quite quiet and maybe a bit secretive, a bit kind of, I don't know if I want to admit that I want to write songs and I want to, and for most of the music thing, I have I have generally kind of toured on my own. You know, there's something about there was something very precious about it. There was kind of, we were talking about football and sport or whatever. I did all of that, but then there was this other mark, a bit um, um, kind of playboy of the Western world, a kind of a public and a private.
Yeah.
And this is me looking back, of course, but I do remember being kind of a bit secretive about it because I wasn't quite comfortable, um, or I didn't want to fail, or I just didn't know how to navigate it. So I kind of kept quiet and asked a lot of questions. And there was just lots and lots of musicians who were all living in the East Village and had careers, would go off on tour around America. And um, and then come back, and then they'd be back and hanging out and smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and talking about music and what about this, and I'm kind of working on this song, and it was brilliant. It was just incredible, and everyone had time. No one has time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and money wasn't, or rent wasn't what people panicked about. That's the tragedy
Yeah.
of now, you know.
Yeah. I,
Um,
I I know, for example, I've never been to New York myself, so I don't have like the familiarity with it. But like
yeah,
I've known, for example, that Williamsburg in particular has been gentrified to the point where people like can't afford to live there. The people who used to live there. Is that
oh,
kind of the same with the East Village, or has it kind of remained
oh no,
bohemian?
it's Aaron, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like Dublin, it's like London, it's like all the places that you could have gone to. And I basically bartended and worked in coffee shops, and that could pay my rent, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about rent. All I thought about was, um, going to the next gig, and you just paid in cash, and I started to get to know lots and lots and lots of people, and they would come to my gigs, I would go to theirs, and um, I watched Williamsburg gentrify. It went from warehouses that no one was interested in going to suddenly, oh my God, can you imagine living in a warehouse compared to a shoebox that I was living in? Just seemed
Yeah.
incredible for the same
Yeah.
price. I never
Yeah.
got out of the East Village. I was there, and even my kids were born there. Williamsburg just felt, they call it the bridge and tunnel crowd. So the bridge and tunnel are people who have to take a bridge or a tunnel to get into Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I was such an East Village. I mean, for years, I didn't come home. I just lived in a kind of a 10 block kind of radius of,
Yeah.
and that was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gigs, hundreds of bars, hundreds of, like, I never got bored. I never, that was my little kind of universe or whatever. So like New York was amazing because it gave me, you know, as I said, a kind of a kindergarten, and you could go and be really crap at a gig, and then the next night you could go play, down the street, and maybe
Yeah.
you got a bit better, and maybe you had a better reaction with the audience or whatever. So it was like this incredible kind of learning, flying by the seat of your pants and just figuring it out, and going back and being concerned about kind of new songs and whatever. And I really kind of, yes, it's a very cool city and lots of hipsters and lots of all of that, but it was very welcoming and very kind of, and it doesn't in New York doesn't get a lot of credit, but it was very friendly and very encouraging. I just
Yeah.
I think I got lucky. I think I got met these amazing people. It was,
You,
yeah.
There's a few things I want to ask actually about kind of the contrast. Just I'm interested in. So obviously, New York, very multicultural city. Dublin at the time, and Ireland broadly at the time was not. Now we are, but I think like at the time it was very monocultural. Did that in any way influence or inspire you, or were you just kind of
Well,
like in your
I,
own head about it?
I never came home. I lived
Yeah,
there 17 years. I had no reference. It was only Irish people who had come in and were doing gigs, and they'd go off again, and that was my only reference. I didn't really think. What's funny about it is, I was going to say I didn't really think about Ireland at all, which as a statement is true. And yet what I started writing about was family, and my mum and my family, and home, this like almost magical Tirnanog home, this misty, and suddenly you're writing as an expat. You're,
yeah,
all those songs, all those, um we used to call them, the tear jerkers, you're crying into your beer. Suddenly all of those Irish songs had such resonance, and the sorrow, you know 100 years before I got there, people were having a wake before they got on the boat
Mhm.
because the idea that you ever came home was impossible. You were leaving, and that's it. You're leaving your home, and so I did. I started to lean into culturally, kind of really kind of educate myself, or be educated, or be open to um, the kind of Ireland that had not rejected me, but yeah, there was some, not bitterness, but there was certainly some mixed emotions of the Irish. Suddenly, I was part of the diaspora. I was part of the millions who continue to get on the boats and the planes and say goodbye to Ireland. Uh,
Mhm.
and then, of course, the kind of just I don't think there's any. I think Irish people write about melancholy or sing about melancholy, better than most, and that's what I leaned into. I think that's really what,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. So my writing was informed by an Ireland that I had been abandoned by or something. It's kind of complicated.
No, absolutely. Yeah, there is something about, I don't know, Irish culture that's sort of elegiac or kind of, I wouldn't say pessimistic, but sort of I don't know, mournful and sorrowful in some
Yeah,
way. Yeah.
I always say that there's no Irish writer that could have written that REM song, "Shiny Happy People." No,
Yeah.
it's just because we're so suspicious of something. So now he's been ironic, of course, but
Yeah.
but just that, yeah, just something that doesn't have weight. And of course, there's I'm not talking about pop music and that has its own universe or whatever. But I mean the writing, and just like the Pogues had just released "If I Should Fall from Grace with God," and thousands are sailing. I mean, Phil Chevron wrote that one, but again, they're all writing about this idea of like, what the hell is this? And also, there was this mad thing that was happening, that I was getting attention because I was from Dublin. I was getting, bartending. Oh my God, where are you from? And like, that had never happened. I lived with my girlfriend in London and Bristol for a while, and kind of got the hell out of there because it was so hostile. It was like nearly got the shit kicked out of me maybe 20 times, just running down streets going, what the fuck, man? I don't I have nothing to do with any of this, and I'm caught up in it because of what was happening politically in Northern Ireland or whatever. And
Yeah.
then to go to, oh my God, I love your accent, brilliant. And of course, you have to be very suspicious of stuff like that. So it was great and kind of amusing.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's kind of a good segue into your music a little bit. One thing that I find interesting, because you're kind of mentioned there about how you weren't involved in like the politics surrounding the UK and Ireland at the time.
Yeah.
But just your identity does become political, which we're seeing now in the US a lot. Which kind of brings us sort of Antebellum, your new EP, and I just want to ask actually, kind of being able to divide being able to divide the personal and the political, is that something that you think is unreasonable? Do you think like inherently people's existence is just sort of political?
Um, are you asking, can I myself as a musician, or me as a human?
Just as I think, just in terms of your perception of the world, do you think people can actually be devoid from politics, or do you think it will bleed
Yeah, I
into their life?
think to lots of people that, have their head in the sand and want absolutely nothing to just, you do it, you fix it. I won't vote. I won't do it. You fix it. And then piss and moan about how insane it is or who's been voted in. There's lots of people that couldn't care and it's not cynicism. They just literally have no um, have no graw or no interest and no opinion.
Hmm.
That's true. And I've never been that guy. And I think I think once you start leaning into you living as a person, if you're awake enough and you see injustice and you see just cruelty and the I was when I started traveling around America and touring, very easy to see the life of a black man and what that actually really looks like.
Hmm.
TV version, not the absolutely stacked against you
Yeah.
from a people that were basically robbed from Africa and just have never caught a break, just and
Yeah.
begrudgingly as the years went on, begrudgingly given rights and begrudgingly, but it's absolutely still there, you know. And I have to say there has been times where you find yourself in a particular kind of class of people with posh accents or whatever, and the working class hair in the back of my neck starts to get a little riled up because just the um casual opinions about how people live and whatever um that they have literally no idea what they're talking about because
Yeah.
they've never had to struggle. They've never had to,
Yeah.
the struggle is to find the sourdough bread and maybe, a nice flat white on a Sunday, everything
Yeah.
closed or whatever. But I mean, real struggle. Um, so I've been political forever. I've been political when I bartended. Someone was acting the asshole or whatever, and they were gone. 86
Yeah.
old. You're 86.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
come back. You know.
It, it,
You
I have a similar opinion to what you were saying there about when you hear people who are so privileged that they get to be detached from the politics and from like and to some degree I think as I've kind of matured because I had like a lot of that same like sort of I wouldn't say resentment but sort of like annoyance I guess.
yeah.
I think as I've matured I've kind of realized
Right? It's hard not to because when you
yeah,
hear it and you really hear it because most people aren't smart enough to kind of dilute what it is they're saying. So when
yeah,
you hear it, you're really hearing the
yeah.
breadness.
But it really pisses me off sometimes how you hear people talk about like homeless people, for example, and like as if like, one bad decision couldn't lead you there. Like they don't have that perception of like what's like the struggle, you know?
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
Yeah,
Because look, if mommy and daddy are going to take care of it all, and what is amazing and what's starting to happen, or maybe it's always been, there's this kind of they are the kind of the political class. These are the people who go into politics now.
yeah,
You don't have because you can't because the working class guy is just fucking fighting to stay alive and fighting his corner and just to get a half decent crap job just to keep
yeah,
the lights on. And then someone from privilege goes into politics and has an opinion, as you said, has an opinion about the homeless crisis or the or drugs or all of the social stuff, and they have really kind of you know dated, you know judgy kind
and
of
stereotypical.
absolutely,
Yeah,
and yet knock out a bunch of cocaine at the posh party and
yeah,
good, so that's like there's the kind of hypocrisy and the cruelty and a certain fear that they've never actually had to struggle. They've never really met people with accents or from somewhere else or other. They've never met other.
yeah,
They're surrounded by
yeah.
the same. Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Makes me
I always
sad.
I've always had a theory, like I don't know how practical this would be, but tell me what you think of this proposal. I always thought if they were going to introduce a bill, there
Yeah,
has to be an open forum in one of the government buildings where anyone can walk in and give their voice on the bill. Like I think we should have something like that because I think when it's all when it's all internal.
Yeah,
Like you said, there's just probably not enough voices there to raise, like, say, well, here's the issue, because you're making decisions for others to heed
yeah,
without really getting the opinions of those people.
yeah. I don't think it'll happen because they're not interested, Aaron.
I know, I just think it'd be better if that was the
Be
case.
brilliant, you know, like the old school kind of, yeah, yeah, town hall meeting. You get
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
get to speak your part. Billy Connolly had this great idea that anyone who ever wanted to get into politics would be banned for life from ever becoming one, right?
Yeah.
And his thing was that you just go out in the street and you just grab anyone, and they go, well, I don't want to do that, and you go, you're
You're
our,
in.
you're our,
No, I think that actually would make it better.
brilliant, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, absolutely is dead set against like everything they're doing and just does not want to do any of this. Yeah, you're a guy. We'll do a Batman on it,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah,
To go back to your record, one thing I want to mention is actually the title Antebellum, which just means before the war, but I know in American culture it's kind of become synonymous with the Civil War, which,
yes,
as you mentioned, was about, well, people would argue it's about state rights, but it's really about slavery. There
sure.
seems to be a kind of romanticization now in Trump's America of like
Yeah.
pre-segregation, if that's fair to say. What was it about this title that why did you decide to title the EP this?
Well, I just as I was traveling through, and I'm a big there's a guy called Ken Burns, documentary
Oh
film.
yeah, of course, yeah, yeah, yeah. PBS.
Yeah, I and my God, there isn't a documentary I haven't watched. So we did one on the Civil War that is so beautiful. We did one on Vietnam. We did one on baseball, jazz,
Yeah,
the parks, all incredible. And then the race out west. When they discovered the gold, and it's basically it's curtains for the First Peoples, the American Indian. It's over. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that the gold is discovered in the most sacred of land. It's just not going to manifest destiny and all of that stuff. So
yeah,
I was kind of watching, just kind of watching the world kind of go on fire and whatever, and I've been in Italy a lot, and I just was looking for. I had these songs that I always try to kind of put a kind of an umbrella over my sentiment, my initial kind of, even if it's vague, even if it's something like, I have an album called Opium, I have an album, Grand Street, or just something to kind of to point in the direction, and it looked beautiful as I wrote it down, and it was like, okay. And then there's a song on the EP called Avalanche that was
yeah,
really really fast, and I got my kid to sing along with me, and we recorded it together. And I just wanted to go like, God, wouldn't it be amazing uh, if you could record this and I could release this in less than a month and a half? Wouldn't that be amazing to do something like that? Um, because albums take a really really long time, and I called the label in January, and I said, like, look, I've got scraps of paper. If you put a gun to my head and get me to really commit, I think I could knock this out really fast. And that's what I did. Um, because it was January, and no one tours, and no one has money or whatever. So I was kind of scrambling like everyone else to make some shekels, but also like how lovely to be creative, to go, okay, this is going to be my January. This is going to be, and so I knocked out Antebellum, and then the Harbor, and then they all started coming really really fast. And I get up in the morning, and another song or some little hook will be there, and I didn't worry about edits, didn't worry about what I was trying to say or whatever. It was just I love these songs. I can't believe I have six gorgeous new songs that I get to go sing now. That's what I've been doing for the last kind of month and a half, just singing them and kind of beating them up a bit. Just
yeah,
can they stretch, or do they have? For me, with all of these albums and all of these whatever, all I'm trying to do is have songs that, you know, um, feel like they can fit in a deck of cards. That
Mhm.
at the drop of a hat, I can go into these songs, and my older songs like It Beats Me or Volunteer. These like they're so road tested. They're bulletproof. I know they work. I've done them different ways, acoustic with a band, with a choir, and I'm trying with these new songs to kind of make them just be match fit, be ready to go, whatever. Um, you know, a late night session and so singing out song there, and I know that these songs can do it because I've
Yeah.
I've road tested them. Kind of fabulous. Yeah.
Do you still think it's interesting to sort of still challenge yourself, even though, you know, I mean, like when you have this much experience, does it ever kind of like you kind of know your skill set? So do you find that it's difficult to still persist and still challenge yourself as a musician?
I don't know if I do know my skill set. I've found myself at gigs going, wow, man, this is fucking hard. This is,
Yeah.
because tours are like that. I know that I could, when you first start doing this, when I first started doing it, like I would just hit the panic button so fast. There's that great quote, expectation is a future resentment, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So if I had this idea of, someone said, you should come to this gig and people really listen or blah, blah, they pitch it to me a certain way, right? And then you go, oh, wow, that's going to be great. And you get your guitar and you knock on down the street and into the gig or whatever. And then you walk in and it's wall to wall TV screens with sports on every single thing. And it's a barbecue and it's just people getting fucked up and you go, this was not what was pitched to me. This is not, we're a listening crowd that are just going to appear out of nowhere, right?
Hmm.
And I really found that hard because it was just like, dude, why have music in a place like this?
Yeah.
Don't do music. Maybe don't
Yeah.
have me. Maybe don't pay me. But don't call this a venue because it isn't. It's just go down to Temple Bar. These poor
Yeah.
lads down and just just barely staying alive, loud enough to
Yeah.
be heard, but not like no one cares. And then maybe it's a photograph or a little video thing or whatever. But it's a dead end. It's a swamp
Yeah.
of horrendous kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
I've always tried to
Sorry, could I just add to that
yeah,
as well? Just
yeah,
as you're saying there, I was actually in a scenario like that. I wasn't performing, but I knew someone who was, and
yeah,
it was at a place on I won't say the name of the venue, but it was at a place on Parnell Street, and the guy was set up. He was performing. It was a set of like covers, popular songs that people would know, and people were actually getting annoyed because they wanted to chat. They weren't there for the music at all, and they were like, "I can't talk because this guy is playing," and
yeah.
so it's even worse. It's not just that like it's not that you're just playing to no one. You kind of become an inconvenience.
Oh no, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And that says something about where we are with kind of music is on tap. It's
Yeah.
where like we're holding phones. I can hear anything I want right here.
Yeah.
And it's kind of undervalued, or just been absolutely, you know, absolutely just wrung out of the last kind of pennies that labels or whoever can just sell their washing liquid and all the nonsense.
Yeah.
And then people are bothered, and you know, I mean, with that great video of some world famous violin player just been kind of spat on in a subway as he's
Yeah.
playing the same thing. 2,000 people last night, and just in different contexts or whatever. Um, yeah, I just don't. I absolutely. I just don't do those gigs. They're they're dead. There's nothing to be gained by them. Also, I don't do covers. I write my own,
Yeah.
and that is not the world for me. And I don't enjoy going even to hear someone play because all I'm doing is I'm right there. My heart is breaking for this poor guy or girl trying their best, trying their best.
That's how I felt. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrendous. It's horrendous.
Yeah.
You know? And this idea, that carrot that I used to get, that used to be thrown at me, and like, it's good. You never know who's listening or whatever. And you go like, I literally just had the guy say, I don't want to listen.
Mhm.
That's who's listening. The guy who
Yeah.
doesn't want to listen. Come on, man. Like, give us a chance. Give us a
Yeah.
chance to win. Give us a chance to charm people or tell stories and do my stuff. But this isn't anything I was interested in, and I, but they're all over New York. It's certainly not just you know the Parnell Street Bar or Temple Bar or any of them. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Um, yeah, no, you gotta choose your battles. You really gotta. I've learned that, and then I have guys who book gigs for me and tours and whatever, and I tell them, and I trust them, and they trust me. Like, look, if I have to go in and you know maybe 4 or 5 songs to convince people that I'm worth listening to, I'll do that.
Yeah.
That's okay. But but don't put me in a situation where it's unwinnable. Um,
Yeah.
you can certainly meet, it's the, portrait of an artist. You meet your audience halfway, absolutely. But you know, free bird straight out of the gate isn't it's not a great look.
Yeah.
No, no, no. Yeah,
To go back to Sorry, to go back to your music, I wanted to ask
yeah,
something you were mentioning there. So you were mentioning like, when it comes to titling your records, that you tend
yeah,
to choose like something that you think is a thematic through line between the songs.
yeah.
I was wondering, do the songs come first, or does the title come first, and you write with that in mind?
Oh no, songs first, and songs and music first, because I don't write themes. I don't write. I don't have an idea or a feeling, and then I go to the guitar, and that's the feeling, and then that whatever I'm doing seems to dictate phrases or little things that are just melody. I'm just I'm just singing lullabies to myself. That's all I'm really. Or or you make mistakes, or you hit a different chord and go like, "Wow, that's what's that?" And you try just stay there, and it happens very fast, and that's what I do. Yeah, the antebellum thing was really after the fact. I was just trying to call it something, you know,
Yeah.
and calling it before the war, suggesting that the war was coming, certainly was my state of anxiety, which continues as we went into a war, uh, 2 wars or three, or
Yeah.
you know, you kind of lose count. But
Yeah, it also seems like, it's funny because like you can think of things like, for example, like the moment like Russia, Ukraine, you can think of Israel, Palestine, you can think of like the US and Iran but like even like what's so crazy to me is that like we're getting so, I think, maybe accustomed is the wrong word, but we're getting so, I think, bombarded by information of potential wars that like, do you remember like, for example, there was potential of a war between India and Pakistan like last year, and
yeah,
everyone seems to forget that.
there's a kind of like the Russians were masters at this, of just that where the English would always, you kill the messenger. You don't engage in the accusation of your government is doing nothing, or you're a criminal, or you're blah blah blah. So you just attack the guy who's asking. That's Trump still does that. Who are you? Fake news. You're a nasty woman. All of that, like, disgusting.
Yeah.
But what Putin did and what the KGB did during the Cold War or whatever, was that you just unleash. Stalin did it. You just unleash all the information, all the misinformation. You drown them in, you don't know what's up or down and whatever, and you just you just you're, as a human, you just go, all right, all right, all right,
You're just inundated,
just
yeah.
stop, just let
Yeah.
me. Can I just go to work? Can I just try and make a living? Can I just, you know, up is down, um, so yeah, you just flood them with everything. You
Yeah.
know what's true anymore. Um, it's fake news. It's fake. It's the you know 4 seconds of actual, a little bit of background and research, and you go, ah, okay, so you're actually full of shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you can't because they've moved on to the next line, the next line, the next line, half truth,
Yeah.
and so you're kind of shadow. You're trying to have a fight with it with smoke. You're lost, and that's a great place for a government to have a population like utterly demoralized and confused and you know smart enough, just smart enough to be able to pull the levers, but not powerful enough to actually have some power. That's a perfect place. It's perfect. You know.
And for someone like yourself who's trying to like write music that's, critical of this, how do you even kind of like, because as you mentioned, like, recording, releasing, getting everything out is, a time consuming process. And
Yeah.
with the Trump administration, there's always some new shit every day. Like,
Yeah.
for example, in Avalanche, you mentioned Elon Musk doing the Nazi salute.
Sure.
And like to
Just
me, my perception of the time is so screwed because I'm like,
feels like 10 years ago. You know.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
only a year ago. I actually, before we did this interview, I looked up when it was. It was apparently January 25. So when Trump got back in, I was like, oh, wow. So how do you keep up with the momentum? Not just you, but I think for artists in general, if artists are trying to use their art to critique the current administration, how do you think they
Well,
can go about that?
honestly, I didn't set out to criticize or whatever. I was just a friend of mine. We were chatting, and she said, uh, because I've never really written a song like Avalanche before. I've never been so
Yeah,
so pointed, you know. And and really, what I did with Antebellum, uh, the really hopeful songs, the really gentle and harbor, and it's all about safe havens and kind of a place to get to that's safe and normal and peaceful and beautiful, and there's love, and I was thinking about my kids. I was thinking about, you know, so so I did all of that, and then I classic, maybe it's the Irish in me, but so I just tagged on Antebellum almost, or Avalanche, to go to go. But I'm not a moron. I know what's going on. I am alive in this time, in this world. Um, yeah, I think it's such a beautiful, hopeful uh, piece of music, and it's been beautiful to sing it. And maybe that's the most political that I could be, to actually almost like it's maybe the biggest fuck you to the people who don't have our best interests is, you know I'm gonna sing my heart out, and I'm gonna be a caring human being, and I'm gonna Lincoln talks about our better selves and all so I'll be that. um
yeah,
that feels political, as opposed to getting into some kind of slinging match with the rats. um yeah, that's how I reconcile it, because I as I said, this it all happened very fast, and I didn't have to overthink it. Anyone who looks at the news, or looks at their phone for 10 minutes, is bombarded with Straits of Hormuz or Gaza, or the flotillas, or like, just it's like whack-a-mole, like, well, where do you want to look?
yeah.
there's all these people going, "No, there's nothing to see here," and you know, um, so I think that's what I did as a creative person. Just that, as a creative person, just to my act of defiance is to still pick up a guitar and go, well, fuck you. I'm not playing this game. I've been hustling this game, and that's what I'm going to do. You know,
Hmm.
like they always say, look to the um, look to the healers. You know, in the time of kind of chaos or uncertainty or something, you look to people who have been working in a community and just pulling open the shutters and getting the tea on. The old ladies come in and like decent people. They're all still here. You know,
Hmm.
I see them every day. The good people. No one talks about them. No one's giving them medals. No one's interviewing them or whatever. But I like those acts of kindness. That's political.
Yeah.
You know.
Maybe
Um,
we should. Maybe we should be put more focus on that. Maybe that should be on the 6-1 news.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, totally, man. Yeah.
I
I used to
or,
always think there was that mad thing of like, interviews and the late late or whatever the TV thing is, like, ladies and gentlemen, a guy who's made a load of money, and
yeah.
we have to listen to this nonsense for 15 minutes as opposed to,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, someone who doesn't have a pot to piss in and has raised a family, you know, decent skin, great crack, good to his neighbors or whatever, does things. Don't worry about that. I got, like that's who we should be championing. Totally. You know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
I want to ask about making this EP. So as you mentioned, it was kind of made basically over a month, right? In
yeah.
January, home studio recording. I was wondering because you've been in this game for a long time now, so I was wondering how have the advancements in technology in that time kind of helped, like, sorry, kind of helped or kind of changed. What have you witnessed in terms of like aiding your own music?
Well, to do something here in this little cottage that I have in a forest was impossible 10, 15 years ago. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely impossible. And this time I got to do all the cooking, get all of my musician friends. We all stayed here and play all night. And then with Carl Odlub, the guy who produced it, who I've worked with himself and his brother David for years and years, and they have all the plugins and they have all these kind of just cool stuff. That's essentially a computer, whereas before it was the size of suitcases, just gear, bringing gear. And not only that, um, there's a guy called Sean who plays violin, and there was Michael who did some of the brass. I was able to send that to their studios, just fire it off as sessions. They listen to, we have a quick call, and burr, 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 you like, fucking love it, love it. Could you do this? Burr, 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 burr. So just financially, if nothing else, just financially, I would have had to kind of get him into a studio, rent rent more studio time, and hope that we can get it. Now, the truth is that it doesn't matter how how comfortable or the sweet spot of I've been in studios where you went in at 9 o'clock in the morning and you finished at 5. I've been in studios where you stayed for a week and was kind of catered and beautiful and walks by the lake or whatever. The same amount of work gets done in both instances.
Scenarios, yeah.
So gun to the head, 9 to 5, real New York thing. All right, man, what do we got? Um, there's a sweet spot where the work really gets done
Yeah.
because we have to goof off a bit. Where like, I don't work for Microsoft. I'm not on a production line of, you know, there has to be a kind of a creative chat and whatever
And decompression.
and decompression and talk about it and
Yeah.
and to make mistakes and is that working or whatever, it's not like I don't know what I want on these songs. I don't, but what do you hear on these songs? I don't hear anything.
Hmm.
Everything, but I don't hear anything.
Yeah,
Drumming,
that is a very vague question. What do you hear on
what do you
it?
I'm, like, you know, I that's why I trust guys like Carl and this girl called Ruth Omani. They kind of just bring a vibe and they go, and then I would start to play to that music. You're playing with other musicians, and then something becomes real, and then you go, I can hear something, or now what about the little two-part harmony here? What about this? And then you're working. You're in the mix of just being creative and play. It's play, you know. Um, but I think there was something really lovely about just being able to be here and and for it to be really casual, because I'm not casual when it comes to singing or playing guitar or making music. There's nothing casual about it at all. But it's nice to have casual, casual, casual. I'll make dinner. We'll goof. We watch a bit of football. We watch telly. Okay, and then and that could be 10 hours later, and we're done.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. Uh, so that's the changes. It's all on the computer. All the plugins. I defy anyone. I've done songs with programmed drums and a live drum. Uh, no one's telling the difference.
Yeah.
You can't, because it's
Yeah.
that. These are the tools that actually help in some way, um, and then like you leave after 2 days, you have a monster song. You came in with a scrap of paper
Yeah.
Monday, and I say goodbye to Carl on a Wednesday, and there's the song. We're just ready to mix, and that's okay. Don't overthink it. Don't do anything. Just leave it there. Don't listen to it. Let's listen one more time. Mix, master. Okay, print.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. You know. Yeah, yeah.
And now the EP's been out, how have you been finding the reception to it?
Well, it's been lovely. I mean, I don't really just because you can be burnt on that stuff. If you're looking for the most amazing kind of review, you can get you've kind of set yourself up for a bit of a kicking. So I I don't pay attention.
Fair enough.
I just because I just know what my head is like. 4 o'clock in the morning, where you're maybe you're knackered, and you just remember some little phrase that someone said in passing that meant nothing. Suddenly, you know, feels a bit juicier and whatever. So I you know uh yeah, the two imposters, an unbelievable review or a really lousy review, you just treat them absolutely the same. But while I'm playing and singing and doing the gigs or whatever, and selling the vinyl and doing all of that, it's been kind of amazing. It's been really positive and lovely. People are people are very complimentary or whatever. But again, you keep all that steady, lad, steady, steady. You know, yeah. It's just better. It's just better, you know, because I,
Yeah.
I didn't write them for a compliment. I didn't write them for a round of applause. I wrote them because I needed to write them, because I love writing songs, and it's always a puzzle. I don't know how to write songs until I write the song. I don't I find a way into the song, and it's a little puzzle or a little riddle that I have to figure out. And I'm always thrilled that there's great lyrics in it. There's great turns of phrase, a little poetic kind of thing. That's all I give a shit about, you know, you know what it's supposed to do or whatever. I'm just thrilled that I do this, and I'm because I do it, I'm very interested in doing it well, and I spend a long time kind of sweating over little little scribbles and whatever, until it feels right, or it feels like I've caught something, or it's caught me by surprise, or it's caught me. That's the lovely stuff.
Yeah.
Clever music never really interested in me. You know, clever musically, or clever, overtly kind of clever, preachy, anything like that. Just I never, you know, never really responded. Yeah.
You're very great for your time, Mark. I'll try not to take up too much more. I had probably about three more questions left, and I'll let you get on with your day.
Okay.
Um,
It's great, man.
yeah.
Don't be afraid.
Um,
Ask me.
one thing I was interested in, you were mentioning, making music now for like the past 3 decades. So I was just wondering, I mean, when you kind of, it's interesting kind of documentation, not only of your own life, but your kind of thought processes. And I think any art that's created is inherently a kind of document of its period.
Yeah.
I noticed, for example, like with your first record, 33 and the Third Grand Station, it was like just like post 9/11 it came out. So I was wondering, um not to say that's relevant to your record, but I'm just saying like
Oh, it
that's
is.
the era it kind of existed.
Oh,
Yeah,
it absolutely
yeah.
is. It's relevant.
So
Yeah, yeah.
so I was wondering, like, do you ever go back to your old material and kind of like realize the headspace you're in then? Do you see changes or do you see similarities?
Uh, well, I don't go back to examine the headspace, but I absolutely go back, because a lot of these songs, I was talking about, are in the deck of cards. A lot of these songs are still with me, and I play them, and they've just become something else, and they've just become, you know, requested songs, or just songs that are, oh, that's Mark's song, or that's, you know, I kind of, in a lot of ways, there's something very beautiful about when they get to that place. You kind of sing it with a certain kind of, we used to always say, is that a real song, or one you wrote yourself?
Hmm.
In Dublin, was that a real song, or one you wrote yourself? And that wasn't meant to be unkind. That was just, is that a song that was on the radio? Or is that
Yeah.
a Beatles song? Is that a Bob Dylan song? Is that a radio? And really, what you want is, you want to almost be detached from, like, I'm absolutely in these songs, and kind of some of the older stuff from Grand Street, and whatever. Uh, but it's like, there's a song on it called Volunteer, and at the end of the song, I was trying to, each little phrase finishes with, sign me up, I'm volunteer. I was just your volunteer, like that was the little hook. And I got to the end of the song, I was trying, and I just was really into that whole thing of, uh like, a lot of the great names all around upstate New York are all American Indian names, and then a lot of them would be like Dutch, because of the Dutch who came, and
Mm. Yeah, it used to be called New Amsterdam. Yeah.
that's right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a bridge that you got upstate New York called the Tappan Zee Bridge, Tappan Zee, and I thought, and I would always see it,
Yeah.
it's flying by me, and the Tappan Zee Bridge has grown ears to hear the drowning volunteers. So I right, that song is so old now that the Tappan Zee Bridge no longer exists. It's
Yeah.
renamed. It's the something something, some dude, some politician got his name on it. Um, and it kind of makes me chuckle. So that's a bit of my own history, and a bit of New York history. Um, yeah, I don't go back with the headspace to answer your question. I don't go back with the headspace of who I was then, but I must inherently feel it I you can think 1,000 thoughts all at once. So I remember where I was when I wrote it. And as I'm singing it, I because time has passed, like my mother has passed, my dad, some sisters have passed, friends have died, friends have OD'd, friends have, like terrible tragedies and illnesses and whatever. And yet these little nuggets of songs and what was said feels even more poignant, feels like even more heartbreaking because I'm actually talking about uh, someone who's left me. Um,
Exactly.
that's what I noticed. So and what's lovely is that the song still stays with me. I get to so then it's new again, or I feel it. I get to sing it and feel it. Which is which is really what you want. There's a lot of songs that they'll just disappear on you. You know, how come you don't do that song anymore? I don't like it.
Yeah,
you know,
fair enough.
like it or I there's nothing in there anymore. It kind of did the thing. It's like a Big Mac meal. It did the thing, and I saw what it was, but there's no nutrients that I can feed off. That happens. That definitely happens, and the good ones just kind of hang around. Yeah.
One other question I had actually, what's very interesting about the period of time you left Ireland is that it was kind of a transitional period in two ways. I mean, in one, it was kind of like sort of social progressive, like, things were kind of secularizing, things were opening up a little bit in terms of like blacks, like censorship was easing and things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. Simultaneously, it was also a transition in Irish music. I mean, the kind of post-Nirvana grunge bands were kind of dying out. A lot of the music venues like McGonagall's, the SFX, Top Hat, place like that were closing down. When you finally returned to Ireland after 17 years, how do you find it in terms of like culture in every respect? I mean, that could be political culture or and the music scene.
Um, it was kind of baffling to me because I in a lot of ways felt that I had arrived in Ireland with a new family with the kiddies, and I was a newly arrived immigrant. That's what it felt like, and it was during the kind of Celtic Tiger, and it was just all this kind of vulgar kind of money and
Yeah, excess and all.
showy and it was like wow, I left. I didn't have a pot to piss in. Now I'm kind of coming back, and I can't really make this work.
Sure.
Uh, uh, and then there was definitely a kind of a songwriter kind of thing that I just remember hearing these uh, PR guys or A&R guys going, "Oh, Mark, look, bands are back, and it's just bands are back, and that's just how it is." Um, and then I just watched my friends just having incredible careers as singer-songwriters. Bands are back. It told me everything that I didn't need to pay attention to. Like just okay, bands are back, bands are back. Just nonsense, just absolute nonsense. So I just got to work. I just did tours, and I um, lived down the country. I was in Westmeath for a little bit, a couple of years, and then the banks fucked up, and I was on the plane again with the family,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm like it was just a migrant who is at the whims of of the billionaires like everyone else. I couldn't afford Dublin, couldn't stay in Dublin, couldn't buy a house in Dublin, and got back in the plane again, went back to New York, and then showed up in a New York that had radically changed in the years that I've been gone. So I've been,
Uh,
you know, just been kind of hiding out, just hoping they'd come looking for me. You know, you know. Just honestly, Aaron, that I'm engaged in some kind of. I've made a pact. I'm engaged in some kind of civil disobedience, and I've been getting away with it, and I will continue to. And when they come for me, it'll just be me in a black bag because that's all there is. The kids will have fucking taken everything, the guitar, everything, and it'll just be me, two black bags. You go like, throw me in a ditch. I don't care. I don't care. You know.
Are the prospects as grim because as they would have been pre-Celtic Tiger? Because you were kind of mentioned, I think I was reading another interview with you. I think you mentioned seeing graffiti on the wall that said "Last one out of Ireland, turn the lights off."
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is it still that grim? Is it still that bleak? Do you think, or do you think the prospects are different?
Um. I. You know what I find bleak is that I heard it some guy on News Talk, financial analyst or some financial advisor, and he was
Hmm.
suggesting to 17, 18 year olds to head off to Australia, work your bollocks off for 10 years to get your little nest egg so you could come back and maybe afford to buy a house. Right? Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't seem to be much of a deal to go to another country for the sole purpose of squirreling money away for the privilege of being given a mortgage to a house that is so wildly overpriced and to have that vice around your neck for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
That is that the game? Is that all that can be on offer? Jesus, man. I went to New York and with nothing and absolutely just got by and had
Yeah.
was no hustle. Yes, I met lots of wealthy people and they were thinking entirely different to what I was thinking. But to your question, is it grim? I mean, do you own your house? Do you have a house?
Me, I don't have my own house now.
Right. Is it likely that you will?
Probably not.
Right. So there's the answer. I don't.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
Uh, when did it become such a privilege? When did it become such a like fucking four walls, man, and a
yeah,
roof? We've been doing this since the Stone Age.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, what's interesting too, actually, is that like even in the 50s, when people were a lot when the country just didn't have any affluence really, we were
broke,
sort of just opening the market up. But even then, like the corporation would help out struggling families.
of course. But
Yeah,
look at what Dublin City, what the corporation actually built. I'm from a corporation house.
yeah, yeah,
Like there was hundred and like Ireland was bankrupt,
yeah,
absolutely had no money, and yet hundreds of thousands of houses.
yeah.
Dublin grew up in these houses.
And I remember I was reading a report from then because I was doing a research paper when I was in college,
Yeah,
and they were kind of admitting that they were sort of embarrassed about the size of the houses because like there wasn't enough room to accommodate the larger families back then. These were in new areas like Fingal and Ballyfermot and places like that, and they're just like the houses were a lot smaller than they were expecting to build.
yeah,
But that's like all those suburbs kind of come out of there,
yeah.
like yeah,
And a back garden and a front garden and fucking shed in the back, and you're like, what?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know revolution, man. Something will come. If
I think so, yeah.
if the pendulum is this way, it'll come back because you know I have to I have to have hope. I have to believe in something. It's just for decency, just the cruelty and the grift and the all of that. I think people will just start to just switch off and go. I'm just not being hustled. I'm not being hustled like this. Um,
And to go back to an earlier point we were talking about,
yeah.
I think there's a difference between political apathy, not wanting to engage, versus beaten down by attrition by the
Oh,
system.
sure.
I want to make sure that's clear because I do think
Oh,
there's a lot of
absolutely.
people who are just exhausted, and I don't blame them at all.
Yeah. Oh,
But
no, no, no.
they'll still
But
vote and they'll still check in. Sorry.
they will. Well, I think the tragedy is that's the point.
Yeah.
To just beat them down. That it just go like enough. Let me let me just. Can you just give me 20 minutes just to go walk? Just to stop this endless kind of shitstorm. You know,
Hmm. Yeah. No, absolutely.
because when you turn off your phone, man, and you go, I'm on a little bicycle, I go pedaling down to Lidl and Aldi and Tesco and doing whatever I'm doing, go for my coffees and my God, I see all kinds of all kinds of kindness. So I think that needs to be hammered home too. If you stay on your phone and you you hit all of the scandals of the day, which I'm sure in our talking probably there's another kind of pile of nonsense that we've had to look at. But if you do that and keep checking in or whatever, the algorithm will just keep feeding it. Will just keep feeding you, just keep feeding it. And that was the other thing in January when I was writing this. I brought the TV down to the charity shop and gave it away, because I
Yeah.
I was you know just plugged in, just absolutely outraged.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, so we hope that you enjoyed and would consider subscribing, giving it a like on YouTube, or a rating anywhere else. We also have some exclusive episodes only available on Spotify, which features interviews with the likes of Kim Deal, Ron Mail of Sparks, Jacob Slater of Wonder Horse, Maria Kelly, Gavin Friday, and many more. So check those out if you're so inclined. Otherwise, thank you for listening and see you next time.